Hey everybody, Kennis Russell here. I hope you're doing great. I'm having a great day today. Today I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why Gibson Les Pauls are better than Fender Stratocasters. Well, 2 of the most iconic guitars in existence are the Fender Stratocaster and the Gibson Les Paul. Today we're talking about 5 reasons why the Les Paul is better than the Stratocaster. Now this doesn't mean that overall the Les Paul is better than the Stratocaster. It's just these are 5 areas that the Les Paul is better than the Strat. Reason 1 why Les Paul is better than the Strat, the humbuckers. Now some people simply just prefer the sound of humbuckers over single coil pickups, but there's one thing that is always better with humbuckers is it bucks the hum. There's less noise with a humbucker than there is with the single coil pickup. So I know you can put some humbuckers in a Stratocaster, but generally speaking, Strats come with 3 single coil pickups. Sometimes you'll see a humbucker in the bridge, but usually it's 3 single coils. There's things you can do to help with that, but overall you're gonna have a quieter guitar with a Les Paul than a Strat. Reason number 2, Les Pauls can be easier to play for a couple of reasons. The first is scale length, the distance between the bridge and the nut. For a Les Paul, it's 24.75 inches, which means it's a little bit shorter. With the Strat, it's 25.5 inches, which means there's about, well, exactly 3/4 of an inch difference between the nut and the bridge on the Stratocaster. Now, what does that mean when you're playing it? Well, firstly, it means that with the Les Paul, all of the frets are just a little bit closer together. So making wide, long chords that require you to really stretch your fingers, or if you're playing some sort of lead line that you're trying to get a lot of stretch in your fingers, it's gonna be a little bit easier on the Les Paul than the Strat. Also, the scale length is gonna create less tension. Think about it, if you have a shorter string, in order to get it to get up to pitch, it's a little bit less tension than on a longer string. You know, imagine if you had a string that was like way long. If you had to get that to the same pitch as something that was shorter, you'd have to tighten it up a lot more. So bends on a Strat are not as easy as they are on a Les Paul. And so just because of the tension. And for some players that might even affect just their fingers on it being harder to press down on the guitar. So the scale length alone makes it a little bit easier to play a Les Paul. Also the radius of the guitar. Most Les Pauls have like a 12-inch radius, which means that if you were to draw a circle, like a 12-inch circle, that's the curve of the neck. Some Stratocasters are a 7.25-inch radius. That's, you know, imagine like this circle compared to this. There's a lot more curve in this. Now that might make it a little bit easier for chords, but for soloing, it's gonna be a little bit easier having a flatter guitar. And I think it's actually overall a little bit easier to play with the 12-inch radius than it is a 7.25-inch radius. Most Stratocasters, from my experience, have been like a 9.5-inch radius. More sustain is one reason why a Les Paul is better than a Strat. Now we're getting into some area here where, you know, message boards are filled with this controversy of is that true or not? I believe it is for a couple reasons. The first reason is that it is not a bolt-on neck. The Stratocaster is a bolt-on neck and the Les Paul is a glued-in neck, which means that it's completely touching, it's completely sealed to the neck. And so any vibrations that are happening in the neck are coming in through the body, whereas on a Stratocaster, it's just fitting into the neck pocket as best it can. Now, I think a lot of times when people say sustain, what they really mean is they can feel the vibrations of the guitar. I'm not really sure how much it really plays into how long a note is being held, but I find that you can definitely feel the guitar on a Les Paul as opposed to a Stratocaster. Now the difference is very minimal, but I think it is there. Also, another thing that might give you more sustain is the bridge. Because most Stratocasters have a tremolo system, it's not touching as much of the guitar as this is here. You know, this is just screws right into the body of the guitar, and so any vibrations that you have are going and they're getting into the wood, and I think that again that might come down to just the feel of it more than the actual sustain. But so that's point number 3, sustain. The 4th reason why Les Pauls are better than Strats, it's easier to dial in the tone with a Les Paul. Okay, so first of all with the Strat, now I've modded this up with some extra switches and stuff, but basically typically on a Strat, you've got 3 single coil pickups, you've got a 5-way switch that are changing these in different ways. It's giving you a volume and 2 tones. And usually this bottom one isn't even any tone happening to it. There's no tone knob that adjusts the volume, the bottom bridge pickup. With a Gibson Les Paul, it is the opposite situation. You've got total control over the volume and the tone of each pickup, plus you have this 3-way switch that allows you to switch to different ones. It gives you a little bit more options with having to dial in your tone. For example, if you have, you can roll off the tone off of the bridge pickup. You know, maybe it's a little too bright. You can just say, I'm gonna roll off the tone a little bit and not make this quite as bright of a bridge pickup. You can do the same thing with the neck pickup. Roll off the tone just a little bit. Another thing you can do is adjust the volumes. Maybe you say, all right, I'm playing on this guitar, and for most of the song, I'm gonna be on the rhythm or the neck pickup, and I'm at, say a 5 out of 10 volume, but then my solo is coming up, I'm gonna crank up the volume on the bridge pickup, and then when I switch down to it, I'm gonna get a boost in volume. And so there's a little bit more, it's a little, not necessarily you're gonna get more tones out of it, but you're gonna get, it's simpler to dial in the tone, and I think to play live, dial in the tone. Again, that might be kind of a little bit of a controversial subject, but that to me is one of the reasons why a Les Paul is better than a Strat. And finally, and this is probably the most controversial, but the Les Paul to me is more beautiful than a Strat. Now I really, really like Strats and I really like Les Pauls as well, but if you just look at the craftsmanship of most Les Pauls, now I'm gonna talk more about kind of like their higher end stuff or guitars that have more of the bells and whistles, you're gonna find things like a binding around the neck, a binding around the body. It's an arched top. There's the maple cap that's on here, and usually the wood looks a little bit prettier. The Stratocaster is kind of like, what's the cheapest, most efficient way we could make a guitar, and we'll do it that way. The Les Paul is like, how can we make this a piece of art? So overall, in general, I think that the Les Paul is more beautiful than the Stratocaster. It's got the inlays, whereas most Strats just have just the dots. It's got these bigger block inlays or trapezoid inlays. And overall, the look can look prettier. Now again, that's totally subjective. What's pretty to me might not be pretty to you. What makes you go, oh, I want to pick up that guitar and play it, may not be what makes you want to pick up the guitar and play it, but there you have it. So this is 5 reasons why the Gibson Les Paul is better than the Fender Stratocaster. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are not already a subscriber, and I'll see you in another video.